Achieving an advanced English level might be easier than you think. Give me 10 minutes and I'll show you how. First of all, let's look at what an advanced level can do according to IELTS descriptors. Okay, what is IELTS? IELTS is a widely recognized English proficiency test used for immigration, education, and professional purposes. It assesses your skills, your abilities in 4 key areas: writing, reading, listening, and speaking. Today, we're going to be focusing on speaking. They assess 4 key aspects of your speaking skills: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. So today, we're going to look at the advanced descriptors, and then I'll tell you what you need to do in order to meet those standards. IELTS classifies levels according to bands. So if you want to look at advanced bands, C1 or C2, you have to look at band 8 or band 9. The first aspect we're going to look into is lexical resource. A lot of people call it vocabulary. So you can see that descriptor 8 says, uses a wide vocabulary resource readily and flexibly to convey precise meaning, uses less common and idiomatic vocabulary skillfully with occasional inaccuracies, uses paraphrase effectively as required. And then C2, which would be an expert speaker, uses idiomatic language naturally and accurately. So the main aspect that makes your vocabulary advanced, according to IELTS descriptors, is idiomatic language. But what is idiomatic language? For example, if you're trying to speak about someone but can't remember their name, you could say something literal such as, I can't remember his name or her name. But if you want to sound idiomatic, you can use an idiom, an expression, and you could say something like, it's on the tip of my tongue. That is figurative, not literal, because it doesn't refer to something literally being there on the tip of your tongue. So it's just a figure of speech, a way of saying that you're about to remember something. So in order to have an advanced vocabulary and use more idiomatic phrases or language, you have to do these 3 things. First, you need a good dictionary of idioms, and I'm going to give you 2 alternatives. First, a dictionary of American idioms. I'm going to leave it in the description. And second, the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, because it organizes idiomatic expressions around keywords. So once you look up a common word, let's say table, you will find all the idiomatic expressions around that word in English. Second, you have to train your memory, your capacity to retrieve, to remember idiomatic expressions and use them. And also practice speaking. You have to practice the idiomatic expressions in conversation. Also in writing, you could write things about your life every day, like keeping a diary or a journal, and use the idiomatic expressions so your brain gets familiar with them. And third, you need to listen to informal stuff in English. The best 2 sources of informal English, in my opinion, are TV shows, especially comedy shows, and talk shows. So there are a lot of talk shows here on YouTube. The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. I think Jimmy Kimmel has one too. I think if you just look up talk show, you're going to find a lot of alternatives. And if you want to look for idiomatic expressions in TV shows, like I said, you could start with comedy shows or shows that you have already watched, and all you have to do is watch it again. So you don't have the pressure of trying to understand what's happening. You're only focusing your attention on finding idiomatic language. Now let's look at grammatical range and accuracy. Let's see what the descriptors have to say. So for a band 8, a C1, you have uses a wide range of structures flexibly, produces a majority of error-free sentences with only very occasional inaccuracies or basic non-systematic errors. And even a higher level, the level of mastery or an expert speaker, uses a full range of structures naturally and appropriately, produces consistently accurate structures apart from slips characteristic of native speaker speech. These are the 3 things you need to do to achieve an advanced grammatical range and accuracy. The first thing you have to look at is all the list of structures that will make you sound advanced. I will leave one here from EnglishExercises.net. It's an excellent website if you want to practice your grammar decision skills, if you want to check why you use an auxiliary or a tense, It also has the answer key, so you can compare your answers when you're ready, when you finish your exercises. And if it doesn't have any explanation or if something is not clear, you can always complement it with artificial intelligence, Grok, Monica, Gemini, and so on. The second step is connected to using the language. So you have to increase your writing and your speaking. For writing, I can recommend Quillbot is an excellent AI tool. It corrects your texts. It also shows you different ways to write whatever you wrote, longer versions, more formal, a paraphrase, and so on. So I think it's a great tool if you're learning on your own. And to practice speaking, I can invite you to my free speaking classes every Friday on X, formerly known as Twitter, because there I will listen to you. I will give you feedback, but not just corrections. Of course, I will correct your grammar. I will also give you examples of good uses that you had in your conversation with me. So that's also a free and good way to practice speaking and improve your grammar to take it to an advanced level. So the third step is connected to the first one. In the first one, I told you about all the list of structures that you need to study and practice. So once you study them, once you practice them, you also need to see them being used in real life. And that is the third step. Whatever you study, try to find examples in real life. There are two websites I love for this. One is Play Phrase Me because it shows you clips of movies where the grammar point is being used. And the second one is Youglish because it shows you exactly the same thing, but from YouTube videos. So these two tools give you access to real-life examples that can make you understand those topics that you studied from step number one more easily. Now let's look at advanced pronunciation. So according to IELTS descriptors, an advanced speaker uses a wide range of pronunciation features, sustains flexible use of features with only occasional lapses, is easy to understand throughout. L1 accent has minimal effect on intelligibility. And then a higher level uses a full range of pronunciation features with precision and subtlety, sustains flexible use of features throughout, and is effortless to understand. What are these pronunciation features? So first, we have to look at phonemes, sounds, vowels, and consonants. Word stress, so for example, record, like knowing the right pronunciation of the syllables. Sentence stress, so knowing which words are weaker and stronger. Connected speech, how words are joined naturally in conversation. And intonation, how you convey ideas and emotions through the use of your pitch. So I will give you three things you need to do as well if you want to master your pronunciation. To begin with, I think a good dictionary will help you a lot to improve your pronunciation and to make it advanced. The best one, in my opinion, is Longman Dictionary. Why? Because it shows you the two main pronunciations of a specific word, British and American. It shows you the transcription. And something that no other dictionary has, it shows you a recording of the word being used in a phrase. So that, of course, gives you the practice of phonemes, vowels and consonants, and also word stress, which is how you pronounce that word when it's present in a longer sentence. The second thing you need, I think, is to listen and read out loud. So this is a very good imitation exercise, and imitation is a very important aspect of pronunciation for you to start finding your musicality, your intonation, your rhythm in English, following that of a speaker. So you have to have a speaker, a model, and try to listen to him or her and imitate the person that you want to sound like. If you have a lower level, maybe you can read first and then listen so you can compare the two, your pronunciation and the target pronunciation. And the most difficult aspect of pronunciation, and also the most important if you want to sound natural, is connected speech. And I think there is no better way than music or listening to music and singing to improve that, because music shows you how words are naturally connected, and it gives you like a good reason to practice other than just the academic focus or academic motivation. So it's something you like, something you enjoy. On top of that, music also gives you a model of rhythm, something that is difficult to learn in an English classroom because people tend to overlook the importance of rhythm and sentence stress. So music is a very good way to practice listening and improve your pronunciation because, like I said, You establish an emotional link. It's something that you usually like. It gives you a very natural example of connected speech, how to join words. And you can also practice rhythm, how words sound when they are next to each other. So stronger words versus weaker words. And the last aspect I'll talk about today, and I think it's the most difficult too, is fluency and coherence. So what does an advanced speaker do in terms of fluency and coherence? Well, he or she speaks fluently with only occasional repetition or self-correction. Hesitation is usually content related and only rarely to search for language. So an advanced speaker never starts thinking about a word that he or she can't remember. And he or she also develops topics coherently and appropriately. So this is about longer turns, or let's say presentations. Then a higher level would speak fluently with only rare repetition or self-correction. Any hesitation is content related rather than to find words or grammar. So if you're telling a very complex story or you're developing a complex idea, that would make you hesitate, but not necessarily because you're trying to find a specific word or a specific structure, or you're thinking too much about how to say something. Speaks coherently with fully appropriate cohesive features. So you use linkers and discourse markers, a very important aspect of fluency, and you develop topics fluently and appropriately. And here are the three things you need to do to achieve an advanced level of fluency. The first one is start making presentations. You might think that in order to practice, you need a partner, you need somebody to listen to you, but that's not necessarily true. You can make a presentation about your day, and you can make it with or without preparation. With preparation, because it allows you to structure everything logically, and you can even think of the linkers that you're going to need. And without preparation, because it prepares you for improvised speech, which is a very important aspect of fluency. Your main goal should be accumulating as much experience as you can. So speaking about any given topic for the first time is going to be harder than doing it for the 5th or 10th time. So the more fluency you need, the more you have to speak about a specific topic. And then that's why I always recommend doing it about your working experience or your working life, your everyday life, your interests, and so on. The second thing you need to do is study discourse markers. So I'm also going to leave a list of discourse markers in the description of the video. And you should also look at or listen to native speakers using them. Like, how do they use like, such as, well, you know, and so on. The things that they need in order to buy time when they're thinking about the next idea they want to say. You can also pay attention to how they repeat themselves and how they interrupt each other. So I think the best way to practice this is connected to something I already mentioned, talk shows, because talk shows are very spontaneous. And I think that spontaneous speech is one of the most difficult to develop in conversation. So whenever you watch an interview, try to listen to the specific phrases and imitate them. Try to repeat. Try to even practice self-repetition in your own speech when you're having a conversation in English, because that's pretty much how you can start to naturally build a fluent turn in English. The last thing I want to tell you about fluency is speaking naturally slowly. So it's normal to want to speak as fast and as fluently as you want in your mother tongue, in Spanish in this case, or maybe you're here and your mother tongue is Arabic, I don't know. So at first you have to try to sacrifice speed and focus on clarity. And it's much easier to be clear if you give yourself time to structure your thoughts and the words that you want to use. Bonus aspect for fluency is chunks. And I always talk about the importance of chunks because that's the foundation of fluency. So when you speak, you won't be using word by word. You will be using prefabricated phrases or chunks. So something that's very important and as important as the other three aspects that I just mentioned is your capacity to identify and use chunks in conversation and structure speech smoothly. So keep an eye on chunks whenever you listen or read something in English. So follow all these recommendations, and I'm pretty sure that in a matter of months, you're going to achieve that advanced English conversational level you've always dreamed of. And remember, you have to prioritize practice. The foundation of an advanced English level is experience, practice, and repetition. So you have to do these things over and over because that's what's going to give you the confidence and the experience to speak naturally and confidently.